April 10th, 2022. Halfcast 278. Episode 278. Let's go. Of course, I have a few things to share with you guys. An evening of reflection. Shall we? Three Oklahoma sisters sentenced for plot to kill ex and new wife. Talk about having the support of your family members. An Oklahoma woman who plotted to kill her child's father and his new wife while they traded custody was sentenced Friday along with her two sisters. Tierza Mapson, 29, arranged to meet her ex with whom she welcomed a child in 2013 in June 2018 in Eldridge, Alabama, halfway between her home in Tulsa and his home in Orlando, according to the Department of Justice. So, since we're starting to hear more and more stories of this happening, if you're plotting to do something to the mother or father of your child during an exchange in custody, don't you think you'll be the first suspect that they come to when something happens to them? On June 18th, the victim and his new wife arrived in Eldridge, about 60 miles outside of Birmingham, and waited for Mapson to arrive with their child. Sorry, a little while longer, child got sick and puked. She texted him after he asked where they were. 20 minutes later, bullets began flying, hitting the child's father in the shoulder and lodging in his chest. As he tried to get out of the car, the gunfire continued even as the couple fled inside a store. Jesus. The man was rushed to a Tuscaloosa hospital and treated for non-life-threatening wounds. Oh, take a look at these three precious pearls here, the pride and joy of America's breadbasket. So at no point did any one sister realize that the other two would be the reason that they'd all be single for the rest of their lives. Officials traced the gunshots to a wooded area behind a church where a white truck had been spotted just before the shooting. Mapson owned a white 2009 Ford F-150 pickup. When interviewed by police, Mapson claimed that her stalker had stolen the truck and driven it from Daytona to Alabama, according to AL.com. Investigators later found a note on Mapson's phone with a to-do list that included disguises, ladder, climbing rope, binoculars. Write down what to text the victim, luck beads, blessing luck, gloves, and after, avoid Alabama. I hope her and her sisters bought lots of board games because they're going to be alone together for a very, very long time. They also found more than 150 texts between Mapson and her sisters, 25-year-old Elisa Mapson and 33-year-old Charis, including one from Elisa to Charis that said it's just a halo, seemingly referring to the first-person shooter video game. Who was doing the shooting? Tierza and Elisa were arrested in September 2019 after a brief struggle at a campsite in Eureka, California, according to the Fortuna Police Department. Charis was later arrested as well. Tierza Mapson has been sentenced to 60 months, which is 5 years, in prison for conspiracy to commit interstate stalking and discharging of a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence, 2 counts of interstate domestic violence, and 2 counts of interstate stalking. Elisa Mapson and Charis Mapson were each sentenced to 120 months in prison, 10 years, for conspiracy to commit interstate stalking and discharging of a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence, and 2 counts of stalking. So far, the only thing that we know of that this guy did to deserve this type of treatment was put a few state lines between his ex and her crazy ass sisters. I applaud the sentences handed down today as the Mapsons showed no regard for human life as they carried out their conspiracy. Federal Bureau of Investigation Special Agent in charge Johnny Sharp Jr. said in a statement Friday, "This case is a perfect example of how law enforcement can combine resources and efforts to bring violent criminals to justice. Next up, police found five fetuses in the home of anti-abortion activist. She claims to have blessed and buried another 110. Even if you share ideals with this lady on anti-abortion, her doing this does not help your cause at all. This is beyond any level of protesting. This is extremism. That is extremism. Police found five fetuses in the Washington, D.C. home of anti abortion activist and self proclaimed Catholic anarchist Lauren Handy on March 30th, but earlier this week said she claimed she had handled another 110. Speaking at a news conference on Tuesday, the Progressive Anti Abortion Uprising said Handy and Teresa Bukovac, the founder and director of PUA, took 115 fetuses. It sounds like a comic book villain organization after an occupation of the Washington Surgery Clinic on March 25th. The Washingtonian reported they claimed that when they left the clinic, where Bukovac said they were engaging in anti abortion advocacy, they saw a biohazard waste truck from Curtis Bay Medical Waste Services, said various reports. Now, we all have our rights to peaceful protest, but all I can picture is them getting up very early in the morning and just getting on people's nerves until very, very late in the day. But Kovanak says they approached the truck driver, informed him there were dead babies in his boxes, and asked if they could take them to give them a proper burial. He allegedly agreed, per the Washingtonian. Bukovac said they analyzed the box contents in Handy's apartment outside of a sterilized facility. She says they found the remains. These people are crazy, man. Remains of 110 first-term fetuses, all of which they say received a Catholic funeral in an undisclosed location after a priest claimed to bless the remains, reported to the Washingtonian. They then explained that there were five more fetal remains, the five later term fetuses found in Handy's apartment by the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police days later. Local news station WUSA 9 first broke the story. Curtis Bay Medical Waste Services told local news outlet WUSA that they do not manage fetal remains and denied one of their drivers gave such contents to Bukovac or Handy, which I'm positive that driver got his ass fired for speaking to anyone that's not on the paperwork about the contents of his truck. The police have rejected Handy and Bukovac's claims that the five fetuses were aborted outside of the abortion restrictions within Washington, D.C., but are investigating how the fetuses got to Handy's residence. In Washington, abortions are legal until the pregnancy is viable, roughly 23 weeks into a pregnancy. However, late term abortions after 23 weeks are also permitted for medical reasons. Handy and nine others have been separately indicted for the occupation of the Washington Surgery Clinic abortion clinic in 2020, per the BBC. They were charged with two federal civil offenses, conspiracy against rights and clinic access obstruction, after they invaded the Washington Surgery Clinic. At the PUA press conference on Tuesday, activists claimed the Baltimore's electricity supply was partly powered by burning fetal remains, the Washingtonian reported. And that sounds like something that extremists would say to justify them going to the lengths that they do. Doctor who ran Pill Mill, where he traded opioid prescriptions for cash, gets 6+ years in federal prison. I've said this before that the new drug dealers aren't standing on a corner anymore. They're in your local doctor's office with a prescription pad. A former North Carolina doctor who ran a pill mill where he took cash in exchange for prescriptions for nearly 2 million doses of opioids and other drugs will spend more than 6 years in federal prison. They say that like they gave him a long time. The U.S. Department of Justice said Thursday that John Wan Kim, 75, received a 78-month sentence after pleading guilty in December to multiple drug charges, including conspiracy to unlawfully distribute a quantity of oxycodone, hydrocodone, methadone, and marijuana. He was made to give up his medical license and is barred from practicing medicine again. Did they say anything about going after the money, though? Prosecutors say Kim, who was forced out of a medical practice in 2017 over concerns about overprescribing opioids, opened his own clinic in Tabor City, where from October 2017 to June 2018, he unlawfully and improperly prescribed opioids to people who paid $200 cash at each appointment and wrote prescriptions to virtually every patient he saw. Got his own building and told the secretary order up a box of pads and a box of pens because we're about to let the good times roll. How many people do you think were coming to see him more than two, three times a day? The US DOJ says so many people from both in the state and outside of it flooded Tabor City to pick up prescriptions from Kim that it caused safety concerns for the nearby elementary school that restricted outdoor activities until a privacy fence could be built. A confidential source made a series of controlled purchases from Kim and co-defendant Tammy Thompson in January 2018, and they were arrested that June when Dr. Kim dispensed nearly 2 million doses of addictive prescription medications under the guise of a doctor's care. He doesn't care. It was not about the good of the community or an individual's specific health needs. It was about his selfishness and greed, said Robert J. Murphy, the special agent in charge of the DEA Atlanta Field Division. Thompson pleaded guilty to multiple counts and is scheduled to be sentenced later this year. We know he's going to incur some fines, but nowhere does it say how much he actually made from writing all those prescriptions. And it also doesn't say if there was going to be any seizures or forfeitures. This man will mess around and come home rich if he lives 6 years. 11 charged with arranging 400 sham marriages for green cards. Because it always sounds like easy money until you find out your brother in law is Pablo Escobar. 11 people in California have been indicted on charges of running a large scale marriage fraud agency that arranged hundreds of sham marriages in order for undocumented immigrants to obtain green cards, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston said on Thursday. The Los Angeles based operation arranged phony marriages and submitted fraudulent immigration documents for at least 400 clients between October 2016 and March 2022, charging the newlywed clients between $20,000 to $30,000 in cash, according to the indictment. I used to laugh at this, but looking back, this could be a potential disaster if you're dealing with Homeland Security. Your boy's growing up. Marriage fraud is a serious crime that threatens the integrity of our nation's lawful immigration system, said U.S. Attorney Rachel S. Rollins. These defendants allege exploitation of this system for profit is an affront to our nation's tradition of welcoming immigrants and prospective citizens. Marcialito Biol Benitez, a Philippine national, was the ringleader of the operation, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Benitez's agency would arrange the fake marriages between foreign national clients and U.S. citizens who received an upfront fee and monthly payments from their spouses for continued cooperation, according to the indictment. Benitez and his staff allegedly staged fake wedding ceremonies at chapels, parks, and other locations performed by officiants hired online. The agency would take photos of undocumented clients and citizen spouses in front of prop wedding decorations to use in fraudulent immigration petitions, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. It is alleged that Benitez and his staff coach clients and spouses through interviews with immigration officials and advise clients about maintaining the appearance of a legitimate marriage. What would constitute the appearance of a legitimate marriage outside of the honeymoon, just an overall lackluster approval of your betrothed? Co-conspirators referred prospective foreign national clients to the agency for a commission of around $2,000 per referral. I'm in the wrong line of work, according to the charging documents. Where's those three sisters that planned that hit That's probably the only way they'll be able to get a man now. If spouses became unresponsive or uncooperative, Benitez and his staff would allegedly seek to obtain green cards under the Violence Against Women Act by claiming the undocumented clients had been abused by their American spouses. Whoa, they have a contingency plan for everything. The Violence Against Women Act allows non citizen victims of spousal abuse to apply for lawful permanent resident status without their spouse's involvement. The scheme racked up millions of dollars in profits, according to the FBI. It is the utmost honor and privilege to become an American citizen, and the individuals we arrested today have allegedly made a sham of that process by running a large scale marriage fraud agency that arranged hundreds of fake marriages for foreign nationals, racking up millions of dollars in profits, said Joseph R. Bonavolanta of the FBI's Boston office. This case should serve as a warning to others that the FBI and our law enforcement partners are united in our efforts to disrupt and dismantle criminal enterprises that seek to circumvent our laws by fraudulent means. Who wrote that speech for him? FBI talking big shit. Benitez ran the operation out of brick and mortar offices in Los Angeles, where he employed his co conspirators as staff. According to the indictment, eight of the defendants, including Benitez, were arrested on Thursday in California and appeared in federal court in the Central District of California. Six of the defendants are Philippine nationals, one is Brazilian, and four are American. Fun show. Fun show. Fun show. That being said, I'm going to wrap this one up, but I'll be sure to talk to you guys very, very soon. Adios.